What if the peace you've been searching for your entire life was already within your reach? Quiet, powerful, waiting to be held in your hands. Life moves fast, too fast. You wake up with a mind already racing, pulled in every direction, trying to hold everything together. And yet, beneath the surface, there's a quiet ache. That longing you feel at night when the world goes still, that whisper in your chest that says there has to be more. It's not your weakness, it's your soul calling you home. Because deep down, you don't just want relief from stress. You want peace that stays. You want healing that goes beyond the surface. You want to feel held, guided, grounded. That's where the Holy Rosary begins, not in perfection, but in need, in the middle of your mess, in the moments when you feel most lost. The Rosary is not just a prayer, it's a doorway, a sacred rhythm that leads you out of chaos and into presence. It doesn't ask for grand gestures. It doesn't demand that you fix your life first. It simply invites you to breathe, to speak, to trust. One bead at a time, one Hail Mary at a time. And as you pray, something begins to shift, not always around you, but within you. The noise dims, the heart slows, the weight begins to lift. You remember that you are not alone. This is what makes the Rosary powerful. It doesn't rely on your strength. It opens your heart to divine strength. It reconnects you with the sacred story of hope, of sacrifice, of resurrection. You walk with Mary, and through her, you walk with Christ. Every mystery you reflect on becomes more than a memory. It becomes a mirror. You see your own life in it, your trials, your joys, your longing to believe that God is still near, and He is. Every single time you whisper these words, heaven leans in. Grace moves. Peace pours in, not as a feeling, but as a quiet knowing that you are seen, you are heard, and you are deeply loved. In a world that overwhelms you, the Rosary grounds you. In seasons where ear screams loud, the Rosary becomes your silence, your strength, your steady heartbeat. So why stay? Because this may be the first time you're reminded that prayer is not a task. It's a relationship. That healing isn't about escaping pain, but walking through it with holy guidance. That Mary, the gentle mother of heaven, wants to take your hand. Not to control, but to comfort, to lead you home. If you've ever felt like giving up, if you've ever wondered if God still listens, then this message is for you. Stay with me. Let the Rosary speak to your heart. Let it anchor your soul. And by the end, you won't just understand the power of prayer. You'll feel it. You'll carry it, and you'll never be the same. You don't need perfect words to pray the Rosary. You don't need a flawless past or a fearless heart. What you need is honesty, a willingness to sit with your pain instead of running from it, a choice to believe, if only for a moment, that grace still exists and that it can reach even you. Because the truth is, the Rosary wasn't given to the strong. It was given to the broken, to the weary, to the ones who've tried everything else and are finally ready to surrender. And in that surrender, something holy begins. You might not feel it at first. That's okay. Healing rarely shouts. Most of the time it whispers. It starts in the quiet when you stop trying to impress God and start letting Him hold you. The Rosary meets you right there in the real, raw places of your life. Not where you pretend to be, but where you actually are. And as your fingers move across each bead, your heart starts to breathe again. Your spirit, so tired of hiding, begins to speak. The repetition isn't meant to bore you. It's meant to restore you. Each Hail Mary is a rhythm of peace, like waves returning to the shore. It slows the chaos inside you. It softens the sharp edges of your worry. It brings order to your confusion. There's something deeply human, deeply healing about the way the Rosa brings body, mind, and soul into one steady motion. It's more than meditation. It's communion, not isolation, but connection. And in that connection, walls fall. The ones you've built around your heart, the ones that kept the pain in and the love out. You realize you don't have to hold everything together. You don't have to fix what's broken all by yourself. You're not praying to be seen. You're praying because you already are. That's the beauty of this prayer. It doesn't demand perfection. It invites participation, a dialogue between your pain and heaven's mercy. This is the shift the Rosary creates. Not always loud, not always visible, but deeply real. You begin to move from fear to faith, from despair to trust, from control to surrender. Not because the words are magic, but because they open a door A door where grace walks in, where Mary walks in, pointing always to the heart of her Son. She doesn't promise an easy path, but she promises her presence. And in her presence, healing flows. So if your heart feels heavy, if your thoughts feel loud, if the world has been too much for too long, come back to the beads. Let the rosary hold you when nothing else can. Let it become the sound of your hope rising again. Don't wait for perfect moments. Start in your weakness. Start in your silence. That's where the miracle begins. Right there where everything hurts and heaven still meets you anyway. There is a kind of strength that doesn't shout. It doesn't come from control, success, or pride. It comes from surrender, from choosing to kneel in a world that glorifies standing tall, from whispering prayers when your voice is shaking. This is the strength the rosary teaches you. Not the kind that makes you look powerful, but the kind that makes you truly unshakable. Because when you pray with Mary, you begin to see suffering differently. It doesn't disappear, but it loses its power to destroy you. Mary's heart is not distant. It is not untouchable. It is a refuge, a place of calm in the storm. She knew what it meant to lose, to wait, to grieve. And still, she said yes. Not because she understood everything, but because she trusted the one who did. That same invitation is given to you every time you pick up the beads. Not to have the answers, but to trust anyway, to pray anyway. To believe that even your smallest act of faith carries weight in heaven. Psychology tells us that we heal in safe places. The rosary creates one. With every mystery, you are gently led into that safe space, the heart of a mother who will never abandon you. You don't have to prove anything to her. You don't have to hide your doubts or dress up your pain. You just have to show up. Let the rhythm guide you. Let the repetition carry you deeper than your mind usually goes. You're not escaping reality. You're entering a greater one. The world teaches you to numb the pain, to run faster, to scroll longer, to do anything except feel. But the rosary teaches you to sit with your soul, to listen, to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, to surrender without giving up. In that stillness, something sacred happens. You begin to remember who you are, not your failures, not your shame, but your true identity, beloved, chosen, held. The rosary doesn't change God's mind. It changes your heart. It pulls you out of anxiety and back into trust. It reminds you that your worth isn't in what you achieve, but in who you belong to. And Mary, gentle yet fierce, never lets you forget that. She doesn't just pray for you, she walks with you. Each Hail Mary is a step closer to her embrace, and through her, to Christ's mercy. You are not walking this path alone. Maybe you've drifted. Maybe prayer feels hard. Maybe you feel numb or disconnected. That's okay. Holiness doesn't start with feeling, it starts with choice. And the rosary is a choice. To return, to begin again, to let go. You're not too far gone. You're not too broken. You're exactly where you need to be to start aim. Pick up the beads. Speak the words. Let Mary show you the way. Let her remind you that your healing is not only possible, it's already in motion. There is a quiet battle happening in every soul, a battle between fear and faith, between despair and hope, between giving in and rising up. And while the world shouts for attention, demanding your energy, your time, your identity, the rosary invites you into silence. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of strength. A strength that comes not from controlling everything, but from surrendering everything to the one who holds it all. Every bead you touch is a declaration. You may not feel powerful, but in that moment you are fighting, not with anger, not with bitterness, but with prayer, with humility, with trust. The rosary becomes your armor, your shield, your weapon against the darkness that tries to convince you that you're alone, forgotten, or not enough. Because when you pray it, something shifts. Not just in your emotions, but in your spirit. Your inner world, often battered and confused, starts to find alignment again. Not with chaos, but with truth. The truth that your past does not define you, that your fear does not own you, that your failures are not your name. The truth that heaven sees you, that God listens, that Mary walks with you not because you're perfect, but because you're hers. This is why the rosary is so powerful. It roots you in identity. It anchors you in love. Love that isn't earned. Love that simply is. Spiritual battles aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they're fought in the quiet decision to keep going, to keep praying, to pick up the beads even when your hands are tired and your heart feels numb. That persistence matters. It trains the soul to endure. It reshapes the heart to trust. It silences the voice that says, "Why bother?" and replaces it with, "Because I am not giving up." This is how real transformation happens. Not in bursts of inspiration, but in consistent AC. To faith. The Rosary helps you build that consistency. It becomes the rhythm of resilience, the breath of the soul, the pathway back to peace. And in a world that thrives on distraction, this focus becomes your freedom. You no longer react to life. You respond with grace. You no longer carry burdens alone. You place them in Mary's hands and she carries them to her son. You were never meant to fight these battles on your own. You were never meant to carry the weight of the world without help. The Rosary is that help. It is God's answer to the ache in your chest, the questions in your mind, the tears that fall in silence. With each prayer, you rise a little higher, stand a little firmer, heal a little deeper. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the pain to pass. This is the moment to begin. To fight your battles not with fear, but with faith. To lift your heart and speak the words. Not because everything is perfect, but because God still moves when we pray, and Mary still walks with those who choose to believe. Not all healing comes in a moment. Some of it unfolds slowly through the daily return to what matters most. The Rosary teaches you this, how to walk when you'd rather run, how to stay when you'd rather escape, how to trust when everything inside you wants to shut down. It turns your heart into sacred ground, a place where pain meets purpose, where wounds become altars, and where silence becomes sacred instead of scary. The world urges you to numb out, but the Rosary calls you to wake up, to feel, to breathe, to be fully alive, even in the struggle. Every mystery you pray draws you deeper into the life of Christ. And as you meditate, you begin to recognize yourself in His story. His joy becomes your joy. His sorrow, your sorrow. His triumph, your hope. You begin to see that suffering is not the end, that even in the darkest mystery, light is still promised. This awareness changes everything. It doesn't erase the pain, but it redefines it. You're no longer drowning in it. You're walking through it step by step with divine guidance at your side. When you pray the Rosary with consistency, something begins to rewire deep within you, not just spiritually, but emotionally. The chaos loses its grip. Fear begins to fade. Not because life has gotten easier, but because you've grown stronger. The repetition is not mindless. It's medicinal. It softens the hard places. It stills the restless thoughts. It builds emotional muscle, the kind that doesn't collapse under pressure, the kind that keeps showing up when everything else says quit. That's the hidden strength of the Rosary. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it is relentless. Every prayer is a step on a holy journey, a pilgrimage of the soul. You may never travel across countries to sacred sites, but with the beads in your hands and faith in your heart, you are walking holy ground every single time you pray. Your room becomes a chapel. Your pain becomes a prayer. Your weariness becomes worship. This is the power of sacred routine. It builds something in you that the world cannot give and can never take away. It creates inner stability, spiritual maturity, a quiet courage that holds fast when the winds of life start to howl. You no longer look for escape. You look for God in the middle of it all, and you find Him every time through Mary's eyes, through her heart, through her unwavering presence beside you. Let that truth settle deep. You are never praying alone. Heaven hears, heaven sees, and heaven moves in response, not always in the way you expect, but always in the way you need. Don't rush the process. Don't despise the slow climb. The Rosary is teaching you how to rise, not with noise, but with grace, not with control, but with surrender. This is not the end. This is the beginning of who you were always meant to become. Keep going. The miracle is unfolding. You were made for more than survival. Deep in your soul, you know this. There's a fire that refuses to go out, even when everything around you feels cold. You were created not to be crushed by life, but to rise through it, to carry something holy inside you that darkness cannot destroy. The Rosary helps you find that fire again. It doesn't ignore your pain. It meets you there. It doesn't ask you to pretend. It invites you to be real. And in that raw honesty, something sacred begins to unfold. Your transformation. Each bead is a step forward, a quiet act of rebellion against fear, a choice to keep moving, not because you have all the answers, but because you believe there's a purpose even in the waiting. This is what the Rosary teaches. It forms in you the strength to walk by faith, not by sight. It reminds you that you're not defined by your worst moments. You are defined by the grace that carries you through them. Peace doesn't come from figuring everything out. It comes from releasing the need to. It comes from placing your life, messy, beautiful, unfinished, into hands that are far more capable than your own. Mary's hands are steady. They are kind. They are strong enough to hold your sorrow and tender enough to carry your hope. When you pray the Rosary, you give her permission to walk with you. And when she walks with you, your steps begin to change. You stop reacting from fear and start living from faith. You stop spiraling in worry and start grounding yourself in truth. The Rosary becomes your anchor, your steady place, your quiet revolution against a noisy world. It builds habits of the heart, humility, patience, trust, perseverance. These virtues don't show up overnight, but with every prayer they grow. With every mystery they take deeper root. This is the hidden beauty of repetition. The world tells you repetition is boring, but repetition is how the soul remembers what the mind forgets. It's how truth moves from the surface to the center. The words may be the same, but you are not. You're changing, healing, growing stronger. The Rosary. Why is not just something you say. It's something you become. And what you become through it is unshakable. Not untouched by pain, but undefeated by it. Not free from wounds, but no longer controlled by them. The Rosary doesn't erase your past. It redeems it. It takes what was meant to break you and transforms it into something holy. You don't have to understand it all. You just have to be willing to show up, willing to trust, willing to believe that God still speaks in silence, still moves in mystery, still heals what you thought would never be whole again. This is your invitation to rise, to return, to rebuild through prayer, through trust, through the holy rhythm of the Rosary. Let grace finish what pain tried to destroy. Let peace begin where fear once lived. The journey continues now. You don't have to carry everything anymore. You were never meant to. The pressure, the weight, the constant voice inside that tells you to do more, be more, fix everything. It's time to release it. The Rosary is not another task on your list. It is the place where you are allowed to breathe. It is where your striving stops and your surrender begins. And in that surrender, you will discover the freedom your soul has been aching for. We live in a world that rewards exhaustion, that celebrates being busy, that praises those who push through their pain in silence. But deep down, you know that burnout is not strength. Numbness is not peace. Avoidance is not healing. What you need is sacred pause, a reset from the noise. The Rosary offers you that space, a holy rhythm that slows everything down so your heart can catch up, a place where you are not required to perform, but simply to be. Healing is not a straight line. Some days you'll feel strong, other days you'll barely have the energy to begin. The Rosary doesn't judge you for that. It meets you exactly where you are. Whether you come in desperation, gratitude, or simply out of habit, it welcomes you. Each prayer is a gentle reminder that your effort matters, that your presence is enough, that even when your voice trembles, heaven listens. There's something powerful about having something you can hold. The beads in your hand become a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, the seen and the unseen. You may feel weak, but when you pray, you are being fortified. With every mystery, you are laying a foundation of peace within yourself. You are building a temple in the middle of the storm. You don't need to understand every word. You don't need to feel a surge of emotion every time. The Rosary is not about how much you feel. It's about how deeply you choose to trust. And trust is built in the silence, in the repetition, in the faithful return to prayer, even when life feels heavy. Especially then, this isn't about checking boxes. It's about communion, connection, Conversation with the one who knows every detail of your life and still chooses to love you. The Rosary draws you into that love, not in theory, but in practice. It reminds you that you are never forgotten, that your wounds are seen, that your tears are counted, and that you are still being led, even when you cannot see the path. So let the noise fall away. Let the weight lift, if only for a few minutes. Let Mary take your hand, as she has done for so many souls before you. Let her guide you back to the heart of Christ. This is more than prayer. It is a homecoming, a return to stillness, a rediscovery of the strength, the peace, and the healing that has always been waiting within you. All you have to do is begin.